Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about how I will be setting up this network switch to be kind of my data center management network switch. And I will be clarifying some things that I said in a previous video about MikroTik VLAN tagging. That is a hot topic apparently, and I was doing it wrong. So I wanted to thank my viewers for correcting me on that one, but I'm going to share the apparently correct way to tag VLANs on the MikroTik switch that does not inefficiently route everything through the CPU. Now this is the MikroTik switch. I don't know why it's blurred out. I'm so sorry. This is a MikroTik CRS310 8G2SIN switch, and it's got 8 ports of 2.5 gigabit LAN and 2 SFP pluses. This is a little overkill for a management network switch, but it's rack mounted and it'll replace the Unify Flex mini switch that I have at the data center right now for my management network. And it will give me some more ports and 2.5 gig support. So if I'm there troubleshooting, I can then connect 2.5 gig Ethernet to my laptop. So I'm going to set up this switch. It's already online, I guess, but I'm going to set it up in the sense of tagging the VLANs to the ports now that I know how to correctly do it. And before we begin, I do want to mention that I am sorry for how long it took me to make this follow-up video. Sometimes I forget about things or just don't feel like doing them. This one I forgot about. So let's log into the switch and let's get started. Okay, so let's take a look at this now in the MikroTik software. So on here, you'll see we have all of our interfaces for Ether 1 through 8, as well as our 2 SFP interfaces right down there. So if we go into our bridges, you'll see we only have one bridge, which is the correct way of doing this. If we click into the bridge and go under VLAN, we have VLAN filtering enabled, which just allows the VLANs to be passed through it from my understanding. That's enabled. Ether type can just be the default one. PVID is essentially the VLAN ID, leave that at 1, and admit all. Now you could theoretically do admit only tagged and priority untagged, or just tagged. And basically what that would do would it would only allow the VLANs that you actually specified in the software to pass through it. And ingress filtering I also have to turn on. So if we go under ports here, you'll see we have all of our ports set up on here, as well as a few different things here. So for Ether 3, this was for my testing earlier, we have VLAN 17 tagged to admit all. And this is essentially saying that this VLAN or this port is assigned to the VLAN. We are admitting all frame types. And if we go, actually cancel this right here. If we go out into our VLANs, we will also see that we have VLAN ID 1 coming through untagged on bridge in Ether 2, which happens to be, by the way, our uplink, which is automatically added. So you'll see that you can't really see it actually, but that's Ether 2. That's the uplink right now, and that is just default added. It adds that automatically. And VLAN 17 is also specified for Ether 3 as untagged, but that'll only show up if the link is active. Right now, there's nothing plugged into Ether 3, so that will not be active. That is expected behavior. So with that being said, what we need to do now is I'm going to set this up for the data center. So I'm going to go through and set up all of these ports to have the different tagging. So we have approximately 5 to 6 hosts there. So ports 1 through 6 will be fine. One thing that I don't necessarily love about MikroTik is the way of naming. So you'll see I renamed this to PX1. Although it's port 1, it does bump it down to the bottom of the list here. So I'm actually going to switch this back to Ether 1 and put the comment on here as PX1. So you'll see that is the name of the device on there. And same for here. So we're going to fill in PX2. And these are all of my Proxmox hosts, as you might remember. I'm going to go through, fill all of these 1 through 4. And actually, I am going to leave an extra because I do plan on adding a 5th Proxmox host there pretty soon, eventually. So leave that like that. Ether 6, we are going to say is Gopher 9, which is just a completely random name, I know, but that will be my other host there. And technically, my router does have iDRAC, so we can say OpenSense as the last device there. So I am filling up my ports pretty quickly here, obviously, but this is with some future expansion in there. And I do have one access port as well, so that I can use to plug a laptop in if I'm at the data center. So actually, we'll go through, we'll label this laptop, and that will be the laptop port if I need it. So the next thing I'm going to do is go back to bridge and go to ports. So I don't remember the VLAN ID of my management network as much as I probably should know that. I'm going to actually go in on my MikroTik or on my OpenSense box and go find this out really quickly. But while I do that, I want to talk about the purpose of having VLANs, and that is to segregate the traffic. I don't want everything to have access to iDRAC, or I pretty much want nothing to have access to iDRAC, because that is the actual servers themselves, the management card. So I want to isolate that off. So I do have VLAN number 72 as my management network, sorry. So we'll go in here and we will go to VLAN and type in number 72. And I'm going to go through and fill this out for all of the ports except for number 2. I just realized, because that's what I'm using now. I will go fill this out for all of the ports that I'm not using. That way they all can be tagged to number 72. And this is technically untagging the VLAN, since it's going to be the access port. So the access network on there is going to be untagged to VLAN number 72. And this network is only accessible by a couple secure means of connection. I think there's a virtual machine that has access to it that I can remote into. So this is a little odd here at the end, but I am going to also put the management network, the last port, my laptop port, also on the management network. And that is because I still want to be able to manage the device when I'm there with my laptop. And this network theoretically does have some access to other things there. And actually, now that I say that, I really don't think it does. So we're changing this back. We're going to change this to number 74, which is my virtual machine. Actually, it's number 70. I'm confident now. Number 70 is my virtual machine network there at the data center. So SFP plus 1 I'm planning on that being my uplink. So I will leave that at 1. And then SFP2, theoretically, I could use that as my laptop port in the future. It's a 10 gig port, so I could plug a 10 gig RJ45 adapter into that if I wanted to. The next thing we'll do here is go under Bridge VLANs and click on our Bridge VLAN right there and add these ports as untagged. So I'm just going to add a bunch of these here, and we'll go through, fill all of these out. Obviously skipping Ether 2, since that is my current uplink to the switch. We're just going to essentially just tell it we want all of these ports here to be on the untagged state, essentially just saying we are getting VLAN 17 in from the upstream tagged on SFP plus 1. Ether 1 through 8 then will be untagged, kind of passing that VLAN through, and we'll click OK. So additionally, one last thing that I do want to do is configure a management network for the actual switch itself. And I do want that to also live on my management network, which is number 72. So to do this, we will go into interfaces, VLAN, and we will add a new VLAN, and we're going to call this MGMT, or management network, and we'll give this ID number 72. Our interface for this is going to be bridge, and we'll click OK. So this will do nothing at all until we actually tell it to. And I'll go to DHCP client and add a new client here for the interface of management, and pure DNS, pure NTP is OK. And obviously we can change some of our DHCP options if we need to, but we'll click OK. So it's going to do nothing right now because we are on my home network right now, but as soon as we go to the data center, it will actually pull an IP from the management network and the bridge network. So once I get to the data center, I will remove the bridge interface. I will go into bridge, ports, Ether 2, switch that up to 72, and we should be good to go. So essentially what we did here is we turned this switch into something that is going to pull VLANs from VLAN number 72 and allow all these ports to access that for our iDRAC connections for our servers. I could do some more fancy things with this. I could have all of these ports be accessible to like the Ceph network or something too. That way I could have a backup network for Ceph if I wanted to. I'm not doing that. It's too complicated, and I probably don't have enough ports for that, but I theoretically could. So I'm not going to do much other fancy stuff with this specific switch, since I do already have a core switch at that network. That is a bigger MikroTik switch. It has these 16 SFP plus ports, but this switch will kind of just be a little smaller switch that can just do pretty much the management network. That's really all that I need to do with that. So that is about all for this video. If you have any questions, or if I somehow messed this up and also did this wrong, please leave a comment down below. I am happy to make another follow-up video, fix what I did wrong. But this does seem like the correct method. I did my research this time. It does look correct. So I'm happy to report that I think I did it right. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all in the next video.